You know my history, John. You know what I'm capable of.
I don't really think that you're in the position to be making threats.
In Budapest, CIA Chief of Station Ben Malloy is supervising an op to intercept intel being passed from a Turkish intelligence agent to Russian intelligence, led by Russian Chief of Station Yevgeny, who has just arrived with his men. The CIA agents identify the Turkish mole, and Ben alerts his team to intercept. One agent pretends to be Russian intelligence and collects the intel, but Yevgeny spots the interception, and his men try to stop the agents. Despite their efforts, the CIA agents escape with the data. Ben, who is standing nearby, calls out to Yevgeny, who wishes that Ben was working for him. Yevgeny knows about Ben's anniversary today and the dinner he has with his wife later, as he has been hacking Ben's communications. He regrets losing his wife due to work and wishes Ben a happy anniversary. Later, Ben buys a rose and goes to meet his wife and fellow CIA agent Farah for their anniversary dinner. She goes to say goodbye to friends when the building suddenly explodes, killing her on sight. A few weeks later, Ben has resigned from his post as chief of station and is still tormented over the loss of his wife and is slowly resigning himself to his new reality. He tries calling his son Nick, who is an IT student, but gets voicemail. Meanwhile, in Croatia, Nick is alerted to the missed call by his new girlfriend, Veronique, but doesn't know how to explain his new direction in life to Ben, noting that Ben isn't someone he can talk to. Not too long after, Ben is called into a debriefing by the Inspector General and others who have intel that Farah may not have been as innocent as she appeared. They show Ben a photo of a Russian agent, Karen Taramov, suspected in the deaths of 2 NATO agents and working to undermine Western society. Ben wonders what this has to do with Farah until the board asks if Farah was Karen's. Ben angrily denies this, noting that Farah took what she did for the CIA seriously. The board wonders if he is willing to do a polygraph to prove his claims, and Ben confidently accepts. Ben thinks the Inspector General is trying to smear Farah's name, and his lawyer, Ted, agrees. Deputy Director of the CIA Williams then reassures Ben that he has his back. Hearing this, Ben thinks they have a chance at clearing Farah's name. He cannot bring himself to believe that Farah, the woman he loved and raised his kids with, could be a double agent, but Ted tells him it's all left up to the Inspector General at this point. Bothered by the news, Ben begins to go over the details of the explosion, trying to see if he missed anything. Returning to the CIA, he discovers a restriction on his security badge. Desmond, an IT specialist, pretends to know Ben but secretly instructs him to comply. Desmond gets him through security, explaining that the IG has restricted his access pending the investigation into Farah. He knows Ben is looking for intel and wants to help, as Farah was one of the best people he ever worked for. They look for all the international agencies present around the area when Farah died, and they find quite a few, which is intriguing, but one stands out, Karen Taramov. Ben, however, doesn't think the FSB was involved. Desmond plans to also run a trace on Ben's laptop to see who has been snooping around. When Ben gets home, he receives an email about Farah from an unknown sender, which contains articles about attacks worldwide and a note instructing him to make connections. Nick then calls, revealing that he has moved from France to Croatia due to Veronique's influence. The two plan to meet in France, but then the connection drops. Before their meeting, Ben plans to head back to Budapest to get some answers. There is a flashback to Ben and Farah having dinner. She reveals the good news that she was promoted to chief of station, and they reminisce on the days when the agency didn't accept their relationship. Farah then gifts Ben a good luck pendant her grandfather gifted to her grandmother, asking him to keep it close as a token of her love. Ben soon lands in Budapest and goes to meet with his former partner and new chief of station, John Branca. He wants John's help to look into Farah's death, as he just has a hunch that something is not right. Branca behaves indifferently to Ben's concerns, telling him they don't have much evidence to go against the IG's report and suggesting that Ben go spend time with Nick and leave things to him. Ben senses the change in John's attitude and leaves. He then heads over to the restaurant where the bombing happened, which has been closed down, and flashes of the tragic incident race through his mind. With no help from the CIA, Ben meets with Hungarian intelligence chief Hitchens, who is reluctant to help because it could risk her job. However, she shows Ben a smart ring Farah was wearing when she died. She believes Yevgeny's team was able to hack it and track her movements and knew she would be in that location, but it remains unclear whether Yevgeny was personally involved. Ben finds Yevgeny in a casino and joins his table for a game of poker. Ben flashes a large sum of cash to him, piquing his interest. Ben wants info on Farah, but Yevgeny refuses to say more, reminding Ben that they are still enemies. Yevgeny's men come to throw Ben out, but Ben engages the men, brutally beating each one down with his skills until he is held at gunpoint and knocked out. He is later taken to a secure location, accusing Yevgeny of destroying his life and taking Farah from him. Yevgeny gradually comes to understand that Ben has come to clear Farah's name on his own initiative. He shows Ben video footage of the night of the bombing, in which Ben sees that Karen Taramov was following them. Ben thinks Karen Taramov is FSB, but Yevgeny corrects him. Before Yevgeny can reveal the true identity of the killer, he and his men are gunned down by a hit squad. Ben barely manages to escape the flying bullets, but the men are closing in on him. Ben manages to get inside a van and call John for help, panicking as he does so. Ben reverses out of the building, flipping the van in the process. He climbs out, and the men come chasing after him. John comes in time and gets Ben out of there. He tells Ben he is lucky, as an FSB hit rarely fails. Ben wonders how he got there so fast and learns John had been tracking Yevgeny. Ben is now certain that Farah's murder occurred and someone set him up, but he's unsure of who. John again tells Ben it's best for him to lay low and plans to take him to a secure location. Nick is traveling with the agents, who explain that a rogue FSB agent tried to kill his father, and Nick is next on the list. Nick gets worried for Veronique, but the men reassure him she is at a secure location. John reveals to Ben that he sent the team to collect Nick and was tracking his cell phone. John brings Ben to a large boat, which he uses as a base of operations. Once inside, John explains that the team sent after him were former Chechen mercenaries now working for the Wagner Group, and he has intel that the men were looking for something that Ben might have. John asks if Farah ever gave him anything before she died, and Ben becomes suspicious of his line of questioning. Ben denies ever receiving anything from her and asks to talk to Nick, so John leads him to a satellite phone. Meanwhile, Nick is brought to a building, but he senses that something isn't right. Nick attacks his two escorts and attempts to flee, but they stop him at gunpoint. Ben is brought to a room where he is shocked to see the same hit team holding guns to him, and John tells him to sit. Ben now realizes that John has betrayed him. They sit Ben in a chair and prepare to torture him for information. Ben cannot believe the man he worked with for 8 years and always had his back has turned traitor, but John just wants to know what Farah gave to him. When Ben refuses to talk, John begins to insert needles into Ben's fingers. John demands to know what Farah gave to him, running a current through his hands when he refuses to talk, giving him smelling salts to bring him back from unconsciousness. Ben refuses to talk, preferring to grit his teeth and bear the pain. John is alerted that Nick has arrived at the safe house, so he wonders if Nick can bear the same pain as him. Ben threatens to kill him if he touches Nick, but John leaves without a word. Another man comes in to continue Ben's torture, and Ben realizes it is Karen. Ben wants to know his name, as he likes to know the names of the people he kills. Karen reveals to him the limitations of American power, recounting how terrorists captured, tortured, and killed the CIA leader in the late 1980s. The same happened to the head of the KGB, but the KGB kidnapped a family member of the terrorist leader and mailed his body parts until the KGB leader was released. As he prepares to begin his torture, he is knocked out and the other man killed by an assassin, a Russian agent named Kristina Kowarski. She frees him, but Ben is too weak to escape the way she came. They have to fight their way out of the ship. Kristina throws a flashbang and unloads on the entire room, but just then Karen throws her overboard and attacks Ben. Ben is weak, but he stands his ground and fights back. Karen grabs a blade, and Ben locks in, evades his strikes, and disarms him. The fight leads out onto the deck, but Ben uses Karen's own pen to stab him before knocking him overboard with a metal pipe. Ben and Kristina then escape on her boat and make it back to shore. Ben wonders if he can trust her, but Kristina reminds him she just killed 8 mercenaries to save his life. Kristina then reveals that she is under orders from Farah and asks if he has the pendant she gave to him. She tells him it is a key, and she will take him to an address. Kristina then shockingly reveals that the men who kidnapped Nick are the ones who betrayed Farah. Turns out Farah was in charge of a few deep cover assets and was about to expose a money laundering operation. She didn't inform Ben as she found out a US operative was behind the scheme. Kristina was one of 7 persons working for Farah but is the only one left alive. She owes Farah and promises to help Ben stop this. Meanwhile, Karen enters the room where Nick is kept. He tells Nick that he looks just like Farah, whose biggest mistake was trusting him, indicating that he is responsible for her death. Kristina brings Ben to a safe house, where there is a locked room. The necklace pendant opens the door to the room where Farah operated out of. There, Kristina further explains how she and Farah knew each other before they both joined their respective organizations and they were friends before anything. Ben finds a laptop on which he sees intel on John receiving bribes from foreign intelligence agencies, along with none other than Deputy Director Williams, who had Farah killed and is Branca's boss. Ben calls John, telling him he has the intel he wants. So John proposes a trade for Nick and gives a time and location. Kristina warns that he may be walking into a trap, but he's willing to risk it for his son. The two then get to the location where Kristina gets off first to set up a sniper position. Ben arrives at the location where John and his men are waiting, while Christina positions herself on a rooftop with a clear view of the deal taking place. Ben steps out with the bag. John releases Nick to Ben, who then hands over the bag and promises to disappear for good. However, John has other plans. He signals to his men, but Christina opens fire on them. Ben knocks John down, grabs the bag and a gun, and jumps back in the van with Nick, with John and Karen giving chase in their car and opening fire. Ben hands Nick a gun and tells him to use it. Nick does his best to return fire while Ben whips the car around corners. Nick soon runs out of bullets. As John pulls up alongside, Ben slows and pits his car, causing him to crash. John is thrown from the car, while Karen is impaled on the windshield. He brags that at least he killed Farah, so Nick blows him up. They get back to the car, and Ben is proud of him. However, there is no sign of John, and Ben suspects that he may have survived and plans to find him. Ben tracks John down, and the two face each other and begin to fight. John feels confident as he knocks Ben down, but Ben eventually hits him with some heavy shots before getting him in a headlock and choking him out. Later, one of John's agents comes to pick him up, but Ben warns the agent not to get involved anymore and walk away. Christina meets up with them briefly, and Ben hopes that after this is passed, they can work together. Ben loads a bound John into the car and takes off. Later, Williams is holding an international conference when everyone begins getting the intel on Williams on their cell phones, and the projector is hacked. Just then, Yevgeny walks into the room along with his officers. He tells everyone it's nice to see his old enemies where no one is tied to a chair, then confirms that Williams is guilty and orders his officers to arrest him. In the end, Ben finally meets Veronique and reveals he is now the French chief of station, and Nick thinks Farah would be proud of him. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this.